everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is the CVN Movie Podcast, and today we are going to be talking about Mother, the movie with the famous Jennifer Lawrence. It's a very strange movie, and I have seen it about 2 times now.
I had to watch it 2 times as well to understand the full thing.
I had to watch it. I had to watch it a couple times because it's any movie that hits like the reset button like it did there just messes with my mind. I don't know why, but it does.
It's ambitious.
Yeah.
It's very ambitious.
It's a dark movie.
I mean, yeah, there were like certain scenes that were hard to watch.
Yeah.
Like especially towards the end, like when the baby gets handed to the fans and everything. That was
hurt.
That hurt.
That was like too gruesome.
Yeah. That hurt to watch.
Yeah, I mean, overall I liked it though. I mean, typically those films aren't necessarily my cup of tea.
Yeah.
But I mean, also because we were doing it for this podcast, I decided to just kind of suck it up and watch it. And I mean, I don't regret it. Just took a couple times for me to really get a grip on everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like the intensity, with the plot and everything, was interesting. I mean, for the first time I watched it, I was like, I couldn't really understand what was going on, but it gave off a really poetic kind of approach with how camera movements were going and how how the introductions were with certain characters, and just the whole pattern of the theme all the way to the very end. And so I figured it must have another meaning toward it, and it just seemed very analogical.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like it was going to be one of those surreal poetic movies from the very beginning, because it starts with the whole everything's ruined, and then everything gets restored, and then Jennifer Lawrence's character gets up in bed, and it's that kind of seemed out of place for what it was before, and then you get to the end and it's that's why. That's how that happened.
Yeah.
But.
So did you guys end up figuring out what the film was supposed to represent?
I always do this thing at certain movies where I wanted to know the deep, the deep story behind it. So I looked it up. But then I was like, but even before then, the first approach, there were certain hints. I was like, So when the first 2 visitors had broken the thing that the husband liked, and so they had to leave, and then the brothers fighting, it seemed very biblical, and to me, I started seeing that pattern, and sure enough, that's what I read up on that. And so when I watched it the second time, all the key cues were happening, and it started making sense in the end with that. So.
Yeah, I mean, I still kind of don't get it. I mean, even after watching it a couple times, I mean, it seemed like what I was getting from it was it was a lot about letting go, essentially, just because the guy keeps going in this pattern over and over again, and it seems like this isn't the first time that this is repeated. So I don't.
Well, it's 2 different forms of almost not ambition, but more just obsession almost. Because the husband is I like how he's portrayed as an artist, because art or an author at least. Because it's interesting to see how he has that writer's block, and that happens. I can be a bit of a writer once in a while, but I know it's that's just really cool how they did that, as well as so he's devoted to his work, while the wife Jennifer Lawrence is devoted to the home, and it's just to see. It's basically it's almost you don't know who's wrong and who's right almost.
Yeah, I mean, and I could kind of relate to the husband just because he's this guy who didn't seem like he really knew how to say no to people like his fans or anything. And it's I can relate to that because I can't really say no to anybody or anything. But seeing it just kind of just get out of control, starting from just this innocent, it's this one guy, and now it's this guy and his wife, now it's them and their children. Now it's this whole cult outside doing whatever,
Yeah.
And the whole the whole dissonance of there is that he likes to have them come. So it's and she's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, every time. And they even had a whole argument about that, which, ended.
Many arguments once in a while. So. And so with the poetic stance with that, toward what the real meaning was, it was whoa. It's it's weird how well it flows.
Yeah.
You know?
When I first watched it, I did not understand like what was going on. I really enjoyed watching it. But I went and seen it with my sister and her fiance, and after the film, her fiance looked at me and he's like, "Did you get it?" And I was like, "No, I don't. I still am confused." And he was like, "She's supposed to represent Mother Nature," and he's like, supposed to represent religion or like God.
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
And
Well, yeah, okay. It seemed like he was supposed to represent God, especially towards the end.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, I can see that now.
Yeah.
Now that you bring that up, that actually makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
And
he's supposed to be seen as like you know, the great designer or just like basically a great artist.
Yeah,
and so
because he keeps saying like, you know, like, well, towards the end he keeps saying like I have to create it all again.
yeah,
You know?
and it's kind of neat because like, and so the house is depicted as like the dwelling of Mother Nature, so it's Earth,
Yeah,
and so she's making it nice, and then what happens? The husband introduces humanity,
Yeah.
Right.
and then they trash it.
that's kind of depressing
Yeah.
actually. I mean, the film already was depressing anyways, just because of a lot of the stuff that was going on. But like, you know, having that theme in mind,
Yeah.
that just makes it even sadder. Because like that's true. That's exactly what's happening now with all like, you know, oil spills and all
Yeah.
that. I mean, granted.
Which, by the way, are we talking spoilers in this?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, good.
I
'cause
mean,
I've
we
been
already
holding
kind of
back.
brought up the
But no,
ending.
like, yeah, so like literally like when I think it was I think it was like the first visitor who is the guy, like, you know, I think he was wounded or something happened where it's like he lost his rib, and then all of a sudden, boom, there comes a girl. It's like, well, there's Adam and Eve right there after my second watching through. And so
Yeah.
that's what it's supposed to, because technically Eve came from Adam's rib.
Oh my god.
And so because of that, that's why the woman came.
No, okay, now there's like a bunch of stuff just going off in my mind because now it's Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Cain and Abel, the brothers fighting.
God.
And the whole fighting with the family in there, and then God's just basically, well, the husband's watching up above.
And then he kicks them out just oh my
But then he invites him back in
God.
after Mother Earth is healed. You know,
Oh
after the mother is finished repairing the house,
Oh my
what happens?
God.
More people come in.
Oh my god. You don't understand. This is like blowing my mind now.
That's why that's the thing. If I know that there's a twist to it, I start digging. I'm like, I want to know the whole thing now.
This is like Get Out all over again.
Oh, Get Out was amazing too, but that's
Yeah.
another time.
Yeah, that's
I-
another time.
I read a article. It was an interview with the director, and he was talking about how like he didn't intend for the film to get as dark as it did. Like he wanted to film something biblical, but he didn't want it to get.
I mean,
like,
a lot of those films don't.
it made
like,
sense.
it seems
Yeah.
like the director didn't want to make it as dark, but then it turns out that way just because they're trying to convey that message
yeah.
or
Mhm.
have that theme. Like, you know, once again, going back to Get Out,
Yeah.
that turned out probably a lot darker
Yeah.
than intended, but yeah.
Yeah, it's just neat because it's like, you know, from like just all together, it's like you might think when I walked in, well, no, when I started watching or whatever, I went in going to this thinking it was a horror film, to be honest,
Same.
because it just, I don't know. I even thought this when before we were gonna watch this movie, I thought like Mother? You mean like Mama? And
Yeah,
for those
right.
that probably know, yeah, Mama. No, this is nothing like Mama.
Yeah, no, wrong
which
movie.
which is nice. And but like all in all, like yeah, going into this, I thought it was a horror film, and then I just saw like, whoa, this doesn't feel too much like a horror film. It felt like more of a psycho thriller, kind of like Sixth
Yeah.
Sense feel. So it didn't really feel like horror at all, but it felt different, where it felt like there was something more to this that I wasn't getting fully.
Yeah, I mean, kind of piggybacking off of what you said, the whole like thinking that it was a horror going into it. I watched it through YouTube, like through like the whole paid YouTube.
okay.
First time I've ever done that.
Oh yeah,
No, like when I searched it up, the first thing that I saw was like a thumbnail for the ending scene. So I was like, oh shoot, like this is like one of those horror films or something like that that's gonna end like just horribly. But pleasantly surprised, kind of. But I mean, now definitely after hearing that and being able to understand it, like now it's definitely more of a pleasant experience than anything really.
Yeah.
So I like movies that like after having something revealed, it can have that effect on you where you're just
Yeah.
like, oh my god, everything fits. Like,
It's one of those movies that you watch and you'll never forget.
yeah,
Definitely, yeah, it really was.
yeah, I might actually have to go out and buy this movie if I can possibly find it on DVD. But those.
So you had touched upon the oil spills. Like, I remember rewatching it. I kind of saw something like that because, like, toward the end, like, there was like the fires that were happening, like, in the
Yeah.
house.
Okay. Yeah.
So, what were some of the analogies you saw after
I
watching
mean,
it
I
again?
saw that as more of like, natural disaster. Well, natural, you can't see my air quotes, but natural disasters like, certain forest fires that might break out or something like that. And, Mother Nature's just, devastated.
Yeah, but it's like, yeah, she's devastated, and also, like, there's all the people trying to get into.
Mm-hmm. And then it kind of seemed like the end, keeping that in mind, seemed like the end was like Mother Nature, pretty much like, end of the world, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, God, the husband, being like, oh, I'd start over or something.
Mm-hmm. And, like, also just, like, from a religious perspective, too, because, like, when they're having the baby or whatever, it kind of crossed, like, Catholic doctrine almost with, like, the woman, like, Earth, like, bore Jesus.
Right,
if it was the son of the
yeah,
artist.
looking at it from, yeah.
And so when it dies, like, well, at least with, like, readings or whatever, like, there was an earthquake and stuff like that, all this stuff. So it kind of showed, like, the mother's fury almost, like, with that. So it's like when the baby was dead, or, it's like, oh no.
Yeah, and the baby was killed by humanity and
Yeah.
everything.
That scene was so disturbing.
That
It
was
was
disturbing
sad.
to me because I have a lot of babies in my family. So seeing that scene like tore me up a bit.
Yeah.
It kind of made me, it was like a little like twang of anger,
Mm-hmm.
and like, talking about those harder to watch scenes, like towards the end, or the very end rather, when now that we've got that theme underway, God is laying Mother Nature essentially on like the bed and is like asking for her love. That also was kind of hard to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I feel like, like the artist is torn between, the author's torn between two things. Like, it's like he loves humanity and he loves his life. And so, but like, he can't. It's
Can't
like he's
choose between them.
Yeah, because it's like that's always the thing. So he's trying to reestablish in the end, like the love for the wife, and so that's why when the loop happened, that's why I was like, "There's more to this."
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, shoot. Now I got to go back and watch it a third time.
I still can't understand. There's a one scene where I'm just gonna call her Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh yeah.
Or
I mean,
like-
that's what I call her too.
She goes into the bathroom. I think it was after the first visitors came, and there was like something in the toilet, and she ended up like flushing it. I still don't know what that was supposed to represent.
Both of the times that I watched it, I'm just sitting there trying to wrap my mind
Yeah.
around everything. So, like that, that's that. Thinking about it now, that did seem out of place.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have to
don't-
once again. I have to watch it. A
I might have
third
to watch
time.
it again too because I don't remember that scene. I'll have to check it out.
It was like towards the middle-ish, like part of
Was
the
that
movie.
after when they saw when they went with the Cain and Abel kind of thing where it's like the two brothers fighting?
Yeah.
So right after that,
I think it was when the woman was there visiting. I thought it was. I don't know. I thought it was towards the beginning. Maybe I'm wrong.
It could be.
I don't know. It was like I have to check it again because I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
It was just what could that represent biblically?
Wow.
I'd have to. Oh,
I'm
man.
I'm not very religious, so I wouldn't.
Do you remember what it was? So we don't know what it
No,
was.
it was
flushed
like-
out.
Well,
was
yeah, we
like
don't
a
know what it was
little-
meant to represent.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but
Is
it
what-
looked
is what
like a
the-
little piece of I don't know, something gross.
Yeah.
Huh. I don't know.
Noah's Ark? I don't. I'm trying to. I'm like trying to think of all the different stories.
Was there a flood entendre in there or whatever? It was like not entendre, but like was there like something where
That
it's
was
like maybe
probably the
there's-
closest thing to it.
that could make
Maybe.
sense. It could be like
Maybe Moses. I don't.
I was basically like anything that like happened toward the middle. I kind of forgot because it was like
Well, yeah, because like the strongest points of the movie are like the beginning
and the
like
end.
the first,
really.
yeah, like the first batch of people that come in, and then the end. Oh my God, the Crusades.
The Crusades.
No,
man.
I'm thinking because like when that whole cult thing started happening.
Or it could have just been like basically if they were trying to burn down a house, like humanity's probably just thinking for themselves and rejecting. Like
No, because they were all because it was divided. It was the people who like practically worshipped him, and then the people who were like or the people that were just trying to protect him or something. Like it wasn't like anybody hated him in that scenario.
the Templars
But-
make sense with that, yeah. Or I guess
Yeah,
the
like I'm
Crusades.
thinking with that scene because once again I'm still like connecting the dots in my brain now, but like
Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah, I'll have to see. But like, yeah, mainly the most prominent parts I remembered very well were just like the beginning with like the first visitors and at least the majority of the first visitors, the baby part and like the writer's block, of the writer. So like he's having trouble like with thinking, the arguments and the ending really.
yeah.
It's like, but yeah.
Yeah. She had such a strange relationship with her husband, too, in the movie.
Yeah.
So strange.
I mean, I could never view it as normal from the very beginning because once
No.
again with the whole burnt down house and place the crystal on the thing and then the
Yeah.
house restores itself, like from there I could never see anything as normal, but and also because of that thumbnail that I saw. But
It's like a world reset kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of, like when they did that whole
well, yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
But and now I'm kind of trying to figure out what it was supposed to represent with the whole ending where Jennifer Lawrence is like, "You have to let me go."
Oh, well, yeah, probably because the world needed to end, but he didn't, he
Didn't
probably
let
didn't,
it, yeah.
he probably didn't want it to happen, so he did like a reset. That's what I'm thinking. So, but he needed the crystal, so he used the mother's heart, I think, right, to make a new crystal.
Well, yeah, it was like inside of I guess the crystal was supposed to represent her love or something.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, after watching the movie,
Or hope.
even with
Could be hope too.
Yeah, I mean, even with that, all those themes in mind, it makes you wonder like how many times this has happened.
Yeah.
Because like obviously this isn't the first time. It's probably not the second time. It seemed like he knew what to do while he was doing
Yeah.
it. So it's like,
Yeah, caught in that loop kind of thing.
yeah, like how many times has humanity failed essentially?
You know, it really reminded me, because it did touch me as well. It reminded me of Pan's Labyrinth. Where that one was so touching, so like where it had that story and stuff like that, but it kind of did like that analogy with like the real world and stuff, which is neat. So it kind of reminded me of that kind of fictional, like fairy tale kind of style theme that he was trying to do.
Yeah.
And again, I say it again, poetic kind of thing.
Very,
so.
very. Especially now, I'm still.
even the costumes actually. So like
Yeah.
I was reading this up too, whereas if you notice, the mother's wearing like plain lingerie when Eve's there, and Eve's
Yeah.
wearing more like seductive stuff. So it's like she's being more tempted almost like to sin.
Yeah.
Versus the mother's like playing like goodness. So it's like things like that were also like those weren't accident. Like
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
no,
Like, those weren't
that's the
accident.
thing about this movie is that like even if you don't understand the theme, everything in there was done for a reason. Every shot was shot the way it was for a reason.
Every frame, like the certain perspectives.
Yeah,
and
like
those perspectives kept changing.
like the
yeah.
husband's
Yeah.
study that was meant to represent like pretty much heaven.
Mm-hmm.
They go mess up, break something, the forbidden fruit, and then it gets boarded up.
Yeah. It's like the garden or Garden of Eden.
Yeah,
Kind of thing.
and then it gets reopened so that the baby can be born.
Mm-hmm. It's neat. Yeah. I'm thinking what else what other questions could we ask? Let's see.
Well, when I watched the movie, there was like a scene, and me and my sister, when we were watching it together, we like looked at each other because there was a scene, and it almost seemed like he was like trying to rape her for a second, and because she like was making it obvious she didn't want to like partake in sexual
Yeah,
activity with
yeah.
him. But then she ends up like changing her mind, I guess. So it was I
Yeah.
said they had a very weird relationship.
Yeah, I'm thinking like maybe it's like the misplaced love for humanity kind of thing. If I
Yeah.
can parallel that, it'd be like that she can tell that he loves humanity more than her. That's why all these guests keep coming in. He likes the people on the outside more than he appreciates his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she kind of directly calls that into question too.
Yeah, in their fights and stuff like that. So it's like, it's like she wants him to spend more time with her, but he's so devoted to his work and to his fans and like all this stuff that he, like, he just doesn't. So like
Right.
she feels isolated almost,
Right.
Mhm.
which is interesting. But like, and then so it's the same thing almost like where if on a religious perspective, then God is like he loves mankind basically more than he loves the earth that that they come to dwell in.
Mm-hmm.
And Mother Nature's just like, what the heck,
Yeah, forgot about me.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
But-
Yeah, and she even says like, I'm like, sorry I wasn't enough for you or something
Yeah.
like that. Too.
Yeah.
It's just like, wow,
Plus, like, just I have to say, the cast selection for the movie was really well done.
Yeah.
No, I mean, even going into the movie thinking like it might have been a horror film, I couldn't help but get like attached to
Yeah, to
Yeah.
certain
different,
characters.
like mainly the main two.
Yeah.
The people who were coming and going and visiting, I could care less about it. It was like, oh, the guy's dying. I was like, all right.
Yeah, but like, I can agree with that because it's like the artist is like depicted like where he's very handsome and stuff like that, but he's also very he's very aggressive.
Mhm.
They showed that and like maybe conflicted, very conflicted.
Very
like,
conflicted.
But
very.
like altogether, you can tell how like from like if he was like out keeping appearances up, like you could tell like he was famous, like and like the wife was very loving, she was very beautiful. And then towards the end of the movie, she's like very tired. And
Yeah,
she's,
she was accommodating at first,
Mm-hmm.
and then over time, after seeing what these people, humanity, have done, just tired of them.
Mhm.
Yeah. Especially like and then killing baby was the last straw.
Oh
basically.
yeah, murders. Yeah,
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
I still love that scene, like the whole, Jennifer Lawrence screaming murderers and then just like, picking up a glass shard,
Oh.
just,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
But again, I was expecting like horror stuff, and like it
Yeah.
wasn't at all.
I mean,
as
as
far-
say it's kind of horror.
Yeah,
It
I mean, it was
definitely
still
unnerving.
definitely. It was
Yeah.
definitely it could be disturbing, very disturbing.
Yeah.
But like, again, I was thinking this in the original time as like a mama kind of thing. So, and it
Well,
wasn't.
Well,
thinking
The
this.
trailer was very vague. Like, I remember
Sometimes
watching.
I think that's
trailer.
good that
I
it was
do
vague
too.
because then it gets you like more. Man, it's like I mean, for example, because what is it, 2019 right now? So like 2018, yeah, like when they did the
2017.
oh no, like so like when they did the Avengers, like the Infinity War trailer, everyone's running towards something. You never see what it is. So like
Right.
even in the movie, they did that for like a full minute. They're like maybe like Tony Stark and Doctor Strange are all warming up, getting ready to see something to fight something, and you can't see what it is yet because the camera won't turn around.
Mhm.
It's like that kind of
Turn!
that anticipation is really good.
Because I actually did watch the trailer before watching the movie just to get an idea of what I was getting into. But the trailer, it doesn't fully show what it is you're getting into, which is a good thing. It's a good thing. Just because you go in there and then it's like, like I said, it was a surprise to me to see all the stuff that was going on there, especially like the whole loop aspect.
Now you're gonna have to watch it again.
Yeah. No. Like I have to watch it again now just to figure out what that toilet scene was.
Yeah, now I want to check that out too because I totally forgot.
Didn't think I would
Yeah.
be sitting here constantly thinking about a porcelain throne.
But also the trailer. I mean, if they would have even attempted to give it away at all in the trailer, I don't even know how they would do that.
Even if they did attempt to give it away, I don't think it would have actually given it away.
No.
Because it's not something that, I didn't even understand it until you guys explained it to me.
Right.
It's so many
You know,
like it's almost like everything's so disconnected yet weave together so well. But you had to catch everything in order to understand.
Well, yeah,
the
you
whole
have to
thing.
watch it all and then probably have someone who understands it better than you explain it to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, shoot.
So would you recommend the film?
Yeah, I mean,
For those thrillers, yeah, I
If-
think the ones
yeah.
that are very big enthusiasts with like plot twists and everything, I'd say you
yeah, for
should
people
check
who
it out.
like movies that make them like think, you know,
Like an Interstellar kind of thinking where you're like, what did I just watch? That kind of thing. And like, of course, the more you watch it, the better you understand the story. I would recommend it. Yeah, definitely. It's people like that.
yeah, I mean, shoot, wholehearted recommendation for me. As a matter of fact, I'm about to, you know what? I've got YouTube on my phone. I'm about to watch this a third time.
And it's not a horror film. It's not a horror film.
It's not, but it's not for the faint of heart.
But it's not for the faint of heart either.
Psychological thriller. I would.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
what
a
it's
psychological thriller, like The Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
Like how that was gruesome a little bit once in a while. Then it's basically that kind of.
I mean, considering that you suggested it for this podcast, would you recommend it?
Yes. I watch a lot of films that are not popular or films that are like dark or independent films. Or films like people don't really understand. I watch them just to kind of get my own perspective on them. So this film I really did enjoy watching. It's dark and it was hard to watch, especially when the baby was being murdered. That like really hurt to watch.
Stuck in my mind.
It is a film that I would recommend to watch if you haven't seen it.
I think we probably.
So we got 3 S's.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're all in agreement here.
Yeah. Definitely.
Well, thank you for tuning in to listen to us. Yeah, I don't know what we'll do for next week.
Well, next week we're actually planning on doing Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, if anybody likes to get a healthy dose of Soggy Bottom Boys, feel free to join in for that podcast.
There you go.
Well, if we'd like to introduce ourselves going out, I'm Mike.
Yeah.
I'm Luke.
I'm Sydney.
Thanks for joining us.
Yep.